This August, we're theming our Preppin data challenges around the type of requests that you might receive from Excel users. So today's challenge is looking at pivot tables. So if I just drag in my input for this week into Tableau Prep, it creates us a nice input step, and then I can add in a clean step. So what we have is the number of items sold by different stores on different days for this particular bike stores. So the first job that we need to do is we need to remove all these records that are returned to manufacturer. So we only want to keep our sold items in this data set. So the way that I filter those out is I just click on the return to manufacturer and I click exclude. So that's great. That's already filtered out those records. And I'm just going to go ahead and also remove this field because now we just know all the data is sold. So I go to this little drop down here and say remove field. I'm going to add in a new clean step just to keep things nice and clear. What we want to do is we want to sum up all of these items by store. So we don't care about what the specific items actually are, nor what date they were sold on. We just want to know for each store how many items have they sold. So we're going to use a fixed LOD for that. So if I come to my number of items field and I go down to the create calculator field and then the fixed LOD option, then that'll pop out a nice configuration window for us here. So I'm going to call this items sold by store, and I'm going to group them by the store, and therefore for each of these stores I want to sum the number of items rather than take the minimum value. And I'll click done, and that will apply that change. Now the final step we need to do is turn this into our pivot table for having items as each of our field names, and we don't actually care about date at all, so we're going to get rid of that before we start bring in our pivot step. So I've clicked on the date, I'm going to remove that field and then go into making my pivot. So rather than it being a columns to rows pivot, we want to take it from rows to columns because those item names are currently in our rows, and we want to take those each item name and make it a new column. So my field that I'm going to pivot on is my item, so that will now be the new headers, and what I want to aggregate for that will be the number of items. So I pick that up and I drag that down to the bottom there. And you can see that automatically it's summing up those values. So where we had additional level of detail there of having the date in there, it's just summing for all those across all those dates, and in total we have that the store of Bristol has sold 9 tyres and 8 wheels, 6 saddles and 7 brakes, which makes 30 if you add all of those together in that row. So you might want to rearrange the fields to make it look more familiar to your Excel users. So I'm just going to pick up my store, for example, and move it all the way over here. And then that looks more like how you would read a table there down at the bottom. So hopefully that was nice and simple and quick for you as well this week, this challenge. And thanks very much for watching.